While many Americans spend October happily planning for Halloween costumes and candies, many conservative evangelical Christians look ahead to the holiday with dread. Religious leaders may warn about demonic spirits and curses that can be attached to Halloween traditions, and parents may ask their children's teachers to excuse them from Halloween events. In light of concerns over offending religious families, some schools have banned Halloween celebrations altogether, and some communities host fall harvest festivals instead of trick-or-treating. But while Halloween has long involved symbols of death and demons, the origins of the holiday may be rooted in Christianity. Halloween is undoubtedly the most misunderstood of festivals. The word itself almost has an odd pagan feel, which is ironic since the name derived from All Hallows' Eve. Prior to about 1500 AD, the noun hallow, derived from the Old English haga, meaning holy, commonly referred to a holy personage or specifically a saint. All Saints' Day was the original name for the Catholic celebration, held on November 1st, but long after Hallow had lost its meaning and noun, the evening of the day would become known as Halloween.
Ireland is considered the home of Halloween. CBS 2's Ian Lee ventures deep into the countryside to find the origins of the holiday.
It's also the birthplace of Halloween, or as the Irish call it, Samhain.
Halloween owes part of its legacy of confusion and muddying to those same Celts who provided the basis for the celebration with their Samhain. Surprisingly, there's little known of them since they kept no written records. Our knowledge of Ireland's Celts is basically large on oral transmitted lore and scattered archaeological evidence. The Celts were referred to as Keltoi by Greeks and Roman writers, and probably by themselves. It is likely that the name derived from the Indo-European word for hidden, kel, making the Celts literally the hidden people. They once spread across most of Europe and throughout the British Isles, and they even occupied Rome in 400 BC for several months. Their religion involved hundreds of deities and bared written records of their rituals and stories, but some histories and various inscriptions made in Greek, Latin, and later Irish have survived and make up most of what we know about their celebration and festivals.
And because Samhain is the night that borders summer and winter, that's the night traditionally when the borders between this world and the other world are completely open. So it's not a place you have to die in order to access.
Celts believed in an afterlife, with souls journeying to the other world, sometimes called Tyra, or land of summer. They believed that the doors between this world and that other world open one night a year, Samhain of course. On that night, the dead might return to the living, and creatures called Sheed or fairies could cross over to medieval humans. Samhain features frequently in Celtic lore. In practical terms, it was the end of summer and the beginning of winter. Crops were gathered and livestock was brought in from the fields. Pigs and cattle were slaughtered, with only a small number kept for breeding stock. During the Samhain festival on October the 31st, the souls of those who have died were believed to return to visit their homes, and those who had died during the year were believed to journey to the other world. People set bonfires on hilltops for relighting their hearth fires for the winter and to frighten away evil spirits, and they sometimes wore masks and other disguises to avoid being recognized by the ghosts thought to be present.
And while the history now has an American spin with the trick-or-treating, jack-o'-lanterns, and of course the classic Halloween movies, the echoes of the past stay with us today.
Customs in the States, they've really helped to preserve and, if you like, spread and keep alive the idea of Halloween and of Samhain.
Historians have argued over how much Samhain really contributes to the modern celebration of Halloween. It seems likely that Celtic festival, particularly mix of harvest, wild celebrations, and fearful supernatural beliefs, gave Halloween much of its character. Just as Celtic culture was recorded by later Christianized Irish scribes, those same Irish integrated aspects of their ancestors' Samhain into their own All Saints' Day, an integration that would prove an uncomfortable mix to the very church that initially promoted it.
The holiday of Halloween is actually one of the most Catholic holidays in the entire calendar, because it comes from the word for holy. Hallow means holy in archaic English. We still use the same word, of course, in the Our Father. When we say, hallowed be thy name, we're using the same word that we use in Halloween. It's a word for holiness. And it refers to the fact that the day after Halloween is the feast of all the saints, all of the holy ones.
By the 7th century, the Catholic Church had spread throughout most of Europe. Missionaries, including St. Patrick, who would become the patron saint of Ireland, had successfully converted the pagan Celts. The church had found that conversion was far more successful when attempts were made to offer clear alternatives to existing calendar celebrations, rather than simply stamping them out. Pope Gregory I famously wrote a letter in 601 suggesting that existing temples and even sacrificial rituals should not be destroyed, but rather turned to use for Christian purposes. This doctrine, known as syncretism, replaced lesser pagan gods with Catholic saints. In 609, the Church put syncretism into action by converting the Pantheon in Rome to the service of the Virgin Mary and all the martyrs. The famed pagan temple was rechristianized to Santa Maria Rotunda on May 13 of that year, and the forerunner of All Saints' Day was born. Samhain's existence, however, is unquestionable, and in sometime in the mid-8th century, Pope Gregory III moved the Feast of the Martyrs to November 1st, the date of Samhain, and indicated that it was henceforth to be a celebration of all the saints. 100 years later, Gregory IV ordered universal observance of the day. So the question is, was the date moved to November 1st so that the harvest could be used to feed the multitudes of pilgrims flocking to Rome for the saints' celebration, as some historians have suggested? Or was it relocated in the calendar in an attempt to co-opt Samhain? A popular 9th century Irish religious manuscript, the Martyrology of Ongus de Caldy, offer intriguing clues. Later English translation of the entry for November 1st give the day as Stormy All Saints' Day, but the original Irish text plainly shows Samhain. By the 14th century, All Souls' Day was observed throughout the Western Church and had been added to all official books and calendars. It's no coincidence, then, that the first recorded celebration of Halloween begins to appear around this time. The Festival of 1511 says, "We read in old time good people wold on All Hallows' Day, bake bread and delve for Christian souls," suggesting that the practice of making special foods for Halloween was already long established. A festival for 1493 noted, "Good friends, such a day, we shall haul All Halloween's Day." Also, Halloween, meaning the evening of the 31st of October, observed separately from All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, Guy Fawkes' Day, Bonfire Night, and Martimas, was starting to creep into both folklore and calendar of festivals observed throughout the British Isles. In areas where Celtic influence was still strong, mainly Ireland and Scotland, the festival continued to grow in popularity. Scotland especially clung to the night's aura of romance and ghostly doings, and the earliest mention of Halloween in poetry all emanated from Scotland. By the end of the late 16th century, the secular and the sacred days had merged. The Reformation essentially put an end to the religious holiday among Protestants, although in Britain, especially Halloween continued to be celebrated as a secular holiday. Along with other festivities, the celebration of Halloween was largely forbidden among the early American colonists, although in the 1800s, there developed festivals that marked the harvest and incorporated elements of Halloween. Now, when a large number of immigrants, including the Irish, migrated to the United States in the mid-19th century, they took their Halloween customs with them. And in the 20th century, Halloween became one of the principal U.S. holidays, particularly among children. Virtually all present Halloween traditions can be traced to the ancient Celtic Day of the Dead. Halloween is a holiday of many mysterious customs, but each one has a history, or at least a story behind it. The wearing of costumes, for instance, and roaming from door to door demanding treats can be traced to the Celtic period and the first few centuries of the Christian era, when it was thought that the souls of the dead were out and around, along with fairies, witches, and demons. Offerings of food and drink were left out to placate them. As the centuries wore on, people began dressing like these dreadful creatures, performing antics in exchange for food and drink. This practice is called mumming, from which the practice of trick-or-treating evolved. To this day, witches, ghosts, and skeleton figures of the dead are among the favorite disguises. Halloween also retains some features that harken back to the original harvest holiday of Samhain, such as the custom of bobbing for apples and carving vegetables, as well as fruits, nuts, and spiced cider associated with the day. Today, Halloween has become an adult holiday or masquerade, like Mardi Gras. Men and women in every disguise imaginable are taken to the streets of American cities and parading past grinningly carved candlelight jack-o'-lanterns, reenacting customs with lengthy pedigree. Their masked antics challenge, mock, tease, and appease the dreaded forces of the night. In doing so, they are reaffirming death in this place as part of life in the exhilarating celebration of a holy and magical evening. Hey guys, we come to the end of the video. In the comment section, let us know if you didn't know that Halloween had a religious origin. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until then, we'll see you next time.